It's interesting the sacrifice. She was willing to just put all her chips on this. She was going to make it, and I was there to experience this. From the beginning. I actually played on the demo that Stephen and she did on a 8-track machine, and we did. I remember we recorded a version of "Burning Up." Everybody was. She did her demo there. Ain't no big deal. Yeah.
Welcome to Madonna Songbook, the podcast about Madonna's music, her great songwriting, and producing talent. I'm your host, Giulio Mazzoleni. Last year, I released Madonna Songbook, the ultimate book about Madonna's music. Here is my baby. It covers all over 500 songs, released and unreleased, at least until her new album comes out this year. There has been a hugely warm response to the book. Fans from every part of the world have praised the book and now even the podcast. Sometimes I have to pinch myself. I never imagined this could be so appreciated. Thank you all, really. If you want to grab one of the remaining copies of the book, I have put the links in the description of this podcast, but you can also check the link in bio on my Instagram account, Madonna Songbook. Don't forget to take a moment to subscribe to this podcast so you get notified when new episodes come out. And you can also look back at the previous episodes too. I must say I'm pretty proud and grateful to all the guests who have come to share their stories about Madonna's music, and there's more to come, I promise. For those who are listening, I just want to let you know that this podcast is also available as a video on Spotify and YouTube. Okay, now let's start today's episode. Without further ado, let's take a journey into Madonna's songbook. It's time to get funky with some groovy guitar riffs. Today we're traveling back in time to the early days. Let the music take control. So let me bring you on a trip down memory lane. Do you know the guy who played the riff on Lucky Star? His name is Paul Pesco. Do you remember that iconic video of Dress You Up of the Virgin Tour and Madonna sided with his guitar player? His name is Paul Pesco. And do you remember the amazing La Isla Bonita performance in the Girlie show with a guy with beautiful long hair? His name is Paul Pesco. And guess what's the name of the guest of this episode? Paul Pesco.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi, how are you, Giulio?
I'm good.
Is it pronounced Giulio?
Giulio.
Giulio. I like it. Very good.
Thanks. Italian fellow.
Yes.
Thanks
to a fellow Italian.
Yeah. Thanks for being a guest on my podcast. We met when I was writing my book, and you gave me 2 very long and generous interviews, and we had an amazing time, and we've been in touch, and I'm so happy to be sharing this with the followers of Madonna Songbook. We have been in touch all through this time, and yes. I remember after delivering the book to the printers, I went on my honeymoon with my husband in Japan, and I found something really amazing, and that is your album, which I didn't know about. I literally stumbled on it. It's amazing. Amazing.
Wow, very cool. Thank you.
I felt like, hey, this is my friend. I was showing it to my husband.
That's my friend. That's so cool. So you're the guy who bought my album.
I have copy 1. Yes. It was really good. It was sealed, actually, so I still keep it in the little plastic thing
cool.
Because I want to protect it. I love the opening track, Countdown. Amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing.
I really I love that song. And,
I need to digitalize it. Maybe I will find a way to connect my turntable to the computer.
Yeah, I mean, you can actually download it.
Oh, great!
Online. So if you just search it, there's a play. I mean, it's on. I think it's on Apple Music. There's Spotify, and there are various places that you can download the music.
Awesome. Then I recommend everybody listens to that. It's really fun.
Thank you.
So, thank you for being here, like I said. And I have so many questions I want to ask you, but first let me introduce to the listeners how you became a guitarist and a musician. You have Italian and Korean origins. Your father was an opera singer, still is an opera vocal coach at
Yes.
92 years
At
old.
92.
Your mother, Korean, taught you to play piano, sent you to piano lessons.
Yes.
You grew up in this very musical family, and at about 14, 12, you discovered the guitar as your...
About 12 years old, I discovered the guitar.
And you
is.
self-taught yourself to play guitar. And when you returned to the US, you joined high school bands?
I did. Yeah, I took sporadic lessons here and there. There was I took, and in school in Germany, they gave us an elective. You could, learn an instrument. And I, of course, I was after the age of 12, I was totally obsessed with guitar. And then, upon moving back to the States, about 14 years old, 14, 15, I then went into, ninth grade and joined. There was a lot of music in those days in school, and everybody wanted to play guitar or be in a band.
And then you quickly progressed and you found yourself, in a couple of years, you found yourself in New York auditioning to get professional engagements in rock
Yes.
bands.
Yes.
And while you were auditioning and still not passing, you had the bright idea of becoming a technician in the studio where you were having all of these auditions, SIR.
Studio Instrument Rentals. Yes, they hired me and as one of the rehearsal techs, and I got to work with some great artists. I set up the soundstage for Shakti. Kiss would be on the soundstage. The Village People in one other studio. Blondie in another.
Wow.
Aerosmith would rehearse there. So here I was around all these amazing, successful musicians, my idols, my heroes, and there would every once in a while there would be auditions, cattle calls, basically. That's what
And
we
one
call
of
them.
these auditions were being held by Patrick Hernandez, French disco sensation.
Yeah, exactly. The famous artist who sang "Born to Be Alive."
And who was in the line to become one of those backup singers?
I'd say about 300 girls came through, and one of the girls came into the office and was like, "Yeah, so what do you do here?" Well, I'm the rehearsal tech. I'm running the rehearsals, setting up gear, and I'm responsible for what's happening here today. And that was at the 54th Street. And she was like, "Oh, cool! This is a really great studio." I'm like, "Well, what's your name?" She goes, "Madonna." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, interesting name." And that was the first time I met her. And oddly enough, she was one of the 3 girls that got the gig and ended up going to France and on tour with Patrick Hernandez singing "Born to Be Alive," which was very cool.
And as we all know, it wasn't the beginning of her musical career because they
wasn't.
had promised the stars to her, and they
Right.
gave her money and food and fancy cars, but she was not getting any real studio time. She was not getting music, and she made the sacrifice of leaving everything and coming back to New
Right,
York.
she left. Yeah, she escaped. Basically, she was like, "Yeah, this is not for me."
A fantastic story. I mean,
Yeah, it's an
so
interesting story.
inspirational.
So
She gave up on everything. She returned to ground zero and she became a musician. She started learning guitar and drums with Dan Gilroy. She joined the Breakfast Club. But fast forward to a couple of years later, she was signed to Gotham Records. She had a band. Her manager, Camille Barbon, was trying to make it, to break through, to get a recording contract, but she was not achieving that. And the project was about to fall apart, essentially, but the band still had gigs.
Well,
around
we
town.
were playing. We were doing gigs. I was rehearsing in Gotham Sound after I left SIR. I got a friend of mine was playing drums with an artist who was signed to RCA Records, and he said, "Well, hey man, you should come and audition for this, and maybe you could get the gig." And so this was a record for Hologram Records.
Okay.
And we rehearsed at Gotham Sound. Ellie Greenwich and Jeff Kent were the producers of this project. And I step out of the studio this one day, and there's that girl again. I'm like, "Hey, Madonna, how are you? What are you doing here? She goes, oh, I'm just here. And she goes, your band sucks. I'm like, okay, well, it's not really my band. I'm here. This is a gig, and I'm working on a record. And she goes, no. But listen to me. I don't like your band, but I like you. I think you should be in my band. I'm like, okay, well, how do I know I want to be in your band? And right at that spot, I said, I don't know I've never heard you sing. And so then she basically sang for me right there with that voice that you hear on the first album from the song Everybody.
Yeah.
And
Burning Up,
exactly. And I heard tone. I heard she sang on pitch. She had she had vibe. I was like, whoa, okay. What do we do? She goes, come back here Saturday, wear something cool, and here's some charts. Just shed the charts, look at these, and
right away.
And I still have those charts. They were written by John Gordon, who was the guitarist that I was replacing because he was leaving the band.
So the band you played with was with Steve Bray on drums.
Stephen Bray, David Frank on keyboards, and John, the bass player, actually, who was playing with David Bowie on. If you look at the Fashion video with
John Kay.
John Kay, yeah, they were calling him John Kay. His last name is actually. I was just looking him up the other day. Yeah, John Kay on bass, excellent bass player.
He's the guy standing next to David Bowie in the Fame video.
Fame, right? Fame. It is, right. Fame with G.E. Smith in that video. Yeah, John, excellent bass player. And so I ended up getting the gig. I wore my coolest shirt. I had my guitar. I could nail the parts.
So you joined the band at the end of this process when Camille was fighting a lot with
Camille.
Madonna.
I got to the studio. I remember getting to Gotham Sound and meeting Camille, and one of her I think her right hand was in a cast. She had. I was like, "Well, what happened?" And she had had an argument with Madonna and punched the wall, and broke her wrist. Unfortunately,
Two strong-minded women.
Two strong-minded women, definitely.
What do you remember of those gigs? I know you told me you did New Year's Eve opening for the New York Dolls, David Johansen.
For David Johansen, that was something that was very, very cool.
You played a lot of gigs one after the other, but it's a common knowledge that Madonna was feeling the frustration of this not leading to anything big for her. But at the same time, she was very passionate.
She was passionate, yeah. And we had the songs, those first sets of songs. There was Social Butterfly was one of her songs, and they all had that vibe. She and Steven really kind of had this concept, and it was about the beat. She had a little Dr. Rhythm, which is a Roland. It's almost like a miniature 808,
right?
Which you could have a little tap button.
Drum machine.
It's a little drum machine, and she would have that doom, that. So she really had the concept of her sensibility of the beat that she liked from early on.
So essentially, you witnessed the moment she transitioned from a rock club gig band to Madonna's experimentation with Steve Bray onto dance music.
Into dance music, exactly, yes.
This was happening at the Music Building, right?
At the Music Building,
Which is on 38th
yes.
Street in New York. It's an historic building.
584 8th Avenue is between 38th and...
Last time I went to New York, as usual, I did my pilgrimage there because everybody has been there. And Madonna's own music started there.
I used to run into Vernon Reed from Living Colour in the elevator, and he would be like, we'd be like looking at each other like, yeah, how you doing? Yeah, I heard you. Yeah, you sound good. Yeah. Guitar players are so
a real community,
competitive. Yeah, definitely.
Established people and newcomers, everybody go there.
Yes.
And the crazy thing is that Madonna always tells the story that she was squatting in the studio because she couldn't afford both renting an apartment and renting a studio, so she decided to live in the studio she was working at.
Yes, there was a point. She was actually, I remember when we were rehearsing, and I was the only one in the band that had a car. So she says, "Yeah, can you give me a ride home?" So I would drive her up to 99th Street and West End Avenue, where she was sharing an apartment with 4 other girls, and they were all paying it must have been like $500 a month, and they each paid $100, and they were living, in this one apartment.
Crazy.
Yeah, but it's interesting the sacrifice. She was willing to just put all her chips on this. She was going to make it, and I was there to experience this. From the beginning. I actually played on the demo that Stephen and she did on a 8-track machine, and we did. I remember we recorded a version of "Burning Up." Everybody was. She did her demo there. Ain't no big deal. Yeah. It's funny. Steven just sent me a recording from today, a text where he goes, "Man, check this out. It was like us working on the groove." He's been going through the archive and finding all these old audio recordings.
Oh, wow.
Kind of cool.
Steven Bray is going through his archives, guys. Goosebumps.
Steven is just one of my brother. We still to this day work on many
I know.
things.
Just recently, you re-recorded "Baby Love" for Regina Richards.
We did "Baby Love." We worked on the movie "Respect" with Jennifer Hudson. I played on that soundtrack and all the studio.
So, how was the atmosphere of music building working with Madonna? How putting together these demos, not having much money, asking Regina Richards to use her equipment, putting together all these things. What was the spirit? Did you feel determination? Did you feel inspiration?
Yeah, it was. It was just this ambition. We had this fearless ambition. And I shared that with her and with Steve, we all had this kind of belief that we're just going to make it. There's just there was no alternative. Like we didn't have a plan B.
But that's why she liked you so much, because
yes,
think
we
her.
Definitely were kindred spirits, as so to speak. And being there from the beginning, seeing it all evolve was very educational. To this day.
You mentioned Social Butterfly, a song that she had written. You were telling me how you consider that an example of how Madonna is a brilliant lyricist, but it's completely unknown. So please tell us about it.
Yes, people don't know about the song. And it's funny, I have her old demo somewhere. It's on a cassette. I need to digitize that, But what was interesting was the story, how it evolved, that then she was talking about how this person was a social butterfly, but then in the end, she was a social moth. And that's interesting, brilliant. How the moth is attracted to the flame. That ultimately
a metaphor that she has recurring in another song much later on the Ray of Light album, like yes. A moth to a flame.
Like a moth to the flame. It's like you're attracted to this thing that will certainly kill you.
Crazy. But there was also a reciprocal influence. I have done some research, and on the song Laugh to Keep From Crying, that was heavily inspired by the Pretenders and that rock and roll world, there's a lot of similarities in the guitar with the song that you did, Go and the Getters, It's Not the End, right?
Yes. Oh, that's kind of funny that you mentioned that. That was recorded, but actually as I was kind of before I joined Madonna's band. It was in the first 3 months of MTV. They were very open to accepting videos, and a friend of mine was working at the broadcast, and so he had an in. So we recorded the song, and my band, Go and the Getters, we were playing it. So we made this video, and it was on MTV in a medium rotation for 3 months, and we were unsigned. That was right around the time that I was then joining the Madonna band. So
you probably brought that kind of sound.
So I might have, it may have inadvertently entered into the psyche of the next band, Yeah, it was fun. It's a fun song. It's a good one.
That was one of the last few rock and roll songs that she did, because she was moving on to dance songs. And yes. One that she didn't start with Steve Bray but eventually finished with him was called Crimes of Passion. And you were in between with this song, because you were working with Steve and Madonna, but you were also working with David Frank and McMurphy from The System. And they offered her a song and they started it, but then they didn't finish it. It became Passion, their single, their hit single.
Right.
And Madonna wrote Crime for Passion.
Right. It's
song.
very interesting, the parallel there. Right. In the System song was In Times of Passion. In Times of Passion, and she wrote in Crimes of Passion. So it was funny because, I think, as I remember it, David had the song, and then she said, Stephen and I are going to do this. So she pulled out of that, and then that's when David approached Mike Murphy and said, hey, let's do this song together. And he then added his vocal, and that song did very well on the radio, and led to You Are in My System, which was a #1 R&B record.
Right. But in the meantime, Madonna recorded that demo with your help as well. And then you got an engagement with Atlantic Star, the band, and you went on a tour in America, right? So you went away for a few weeks.
Went away for the summer.
So what happened when you came back?
Right. Okay. Well, we're on the bus. It's probably about 6, in the morning. The sun's coming up. We're driving through Jersey to the George Washington Bridge, and all of a sudden we're like all kind of like waking up, going, "Oh God, we're almost home," and having some coffee and turning on our the radio to allow WBLS, or KTU 92, like all our favorite R&B stations, and then all of a sudden on the radio comes, I'm like, I know this song, and I hear everybody, come on, dance and sing. I'm like, oh my God, it's Madonna! Oh my, Madonna's on the radio. It's like that scene you see in so many movies. There's that movie, The Wonders. They hear the song on the radio, they're all running. I'm like yelling, and all the guys on the band are like, what are you? All the guys, from the band, they were like, what? Who's Madonna? What? This, and it's something that we joke about to this day. Porter Carroll, the Lewis brothers, they go, yeah, I remember, and it was just the beginning of it all. And so when I got home, I called her. I said, I just heard everybody on the radio. What's going on? This is incredible. She goes, yeah, I got a record deal. Seymour Stein from Sire signed me. In fact, I need you in the studio. I want you to come and play guitar on something. And I went in. And I did the first. I had already played. They used a lot of what I had done on Burning Up, and had me recreate that and play the harmonics and play the guitar part. And then she had me play guitar on the song Lucky Star, and the rest is history. I mean, that was the first record that the iconic Madonna record.
Today, I was listening to the Reggie Lucas demo before Paul Pesco's guitar came in, and it's such a dramatic difference. You guys should compare that. You can find them, you can find that version on YouTube.
Something? I've never listened to the original version. It's funny. I'd like to hear it.
I will share it with you.
Please share it. Share it with me.
It doesn't have some of the amazing ad-libs that Fred Zarr added to it, but it also lacks of your guitar and also that harps that were added. That was his idea. The thing is that Madonna wasn't very happy with how Reggie Lucas was producing her songs.
They were having some creative differences. So
she was already moving way beyond a Grammy winner producer that was producing her album.
Reggie Lucas, amazing musician, played with Miles Davis. He wrote Borderline. So really, very a monster talent, genius level musician, But
there was something happening with the club scene, with dance music coming up, and so she wanted to transition from R&B way before the single was out. And Burning Up hadn't really worked that well on the version that he had produced. So she convinced the label to have Jelly Bean post-produce, remix.
Really, it's funny. It's something you see standard today. Like everybody's working with all these great DJs, Tiesto, Kygo, Christoph Fischer. There's Diplo. Yeah, exactly. See, Diplo, who's amazing. I love his production. I love that song, "Don't Forget My Love" with Miguel. It's one of my favorite songs. It's something standard now that she then convinced the label. Then I want to work with Jelly Bean. He knows what he's talking about.
She got into the whole 12-inch culture.
Yes. really
which is
kind of
coming
thinking.
up.
She was really thinking ahead, you know.
Exactly. So they called you in the studio to rework these songs, and
Yes.
with Lucky Star, you did an amazing job. Again,
Thank you.
You really lifted.
That
it
was
up.
my first impression, and it's funny because Madonna's one of those people. She might not know exactly what she wants, but she would recognize it when she hears it. But she knows what she doesn't want, you know. So you'd play a couple ideas, and she'd go, "No, no," and then I'd play something. Oh, I like that, and then so we like. I really kind of came up with that, really kind of on the spot. You know that, so she was really, really digging it, and I had been listening to a lot of R&B, you know, on the radio stations, that New York style, because New York was really kind of very unique in a way, because you'd hear the R&B and the funk that was across the nation, and you know, coming up from the South, from Atlanta, from Georgia, and you know, every city had its sound. Like there's the Kansas City sound, there's the Memphis. Like I love Memphis, you know, the Memphis guitars that you'd hear Steve Cropper or you know the Al Green records, but things have become a lot more homogenized now because of streaming, because of how universal our access is, you know.
Yeah.
So every city had its thing, but New York had a very unique sound, and a lot of the bands. There was a band called Sky. And they had a song called "Call Me," which was on the radio a lot. And the guitar part from Sky was from "Call Me" was. You know, so I was like, I like that. So I borrowed a little bit of that and into my own thing, which was, you know.
Awesome. Thanks for playing that. And this is what happened.
Yes.
This is one of the rarest, but this is the maxi single for Lucky Star, and it became one of the biggest songs of 1984 and Madonna's first top 5 hit.
It was huge, and it really kind of catapulted my career as a session musician. People would be like, man, just give me Lucky Star. Just play what you played. I'm like, listen, I can't play exactly what I'm playing on that, but I'm going to give you something similar, or I'll give you me. And let me.
And you also gave something completely different, but historic. By the way, you guys, do you know CNC Music Factor's Everybody Dance Now? Guess who came up with the guitar riff on that song? Paul Pesco.
Yeah, I played that. That's
So yeah, one of the biggest.
It's funny. I work with Robert Clavillos to this day. In fact, after this, I'm kind of get on a session with Robert. We're working on the new version of CNC Music Factory.
Oh, awesome that you're always keeping on the vibe.
Gotta stay busy, right?
and there's 2 versions that you made for Burning Up. A lot of people who were not fans at the time or have been doing research recently ask me this question a lot. But just to be clear, Burning Up was released as a second single, as a kind of dance version, and then you guys with Jelly Bean did 2 more versions. One that was released immediately on the album and is only available on the first edition, which is on cassette and vinyl. CD wasn't out there yet. On reprints and on the 1985 edition of the album, also called the first album, that was released internationally, there was the rockier version that was sent to MTV, because at the time, as you were saying, MTV was only playing rock
more
music,
of a rock,
which is also why Michael Jackson released Beat It as the first single from Thriller, because rock was working on MTV. And so with Madonna, Sire said, okay, let's take this song, Burning Up, and bring it back to its original rock grooves. And you did both versions, which are, I prefer the one that was first released, that kind of groovy between dance and rock version.
Yeah, it was more of a dance
New York club
danceable
rock
version. Yes.
But
I like the video for it too, where she's like crawling up the middle of the street, you know.
Yeah, but that video made it iconic, and that's why it has replaced the version ever since. But then you went on and remained close to Madonna and Stephen Bray.
She would call me to have me play, because she was starting to get hired to do track dates, you know, where, you know, you'd be singing on a microphone, and you'd have the tape, you know, or you'd have the backing tracks. And so she'd have somebody to, she'd have go to like Danceteria or Palladium or wherever, wherever
Studio
she would
54,
be.
Fun
Studio
House.
54, Fun House. She would say, Pascal, bring your digital delay, because I would be able to mix and control. And being the experienced rehearsal technician gave me the background in order to really kind of set things up and work with her on that.
So you were putting delays on her voice.
Yeah, I would be there at her track dates, helping her, mix her microphone with the backing track, and then I would I had my little MXR delay, and I would mix, everybody, buddy.
I heard some recordings, and there were these effects. Yes.
Right, and so I was running that and doing the gigs with her, which was it gave me an interesting perspective, because at first, like, I remember we got hired to do to play on the rooftop at Danceteria one night, and it was all like hip hop. The b-boys were hanging, and that's and we did her set, and to little or no response. They were all like, "Yeah, we'll solve that." I was like, "Man, they're not responding. What's going on?" And that was that was just before things really started to take hold. Before the videos were, but it was. I'm telling you, the very beginning. They didn't respond, and then
how did she take it?
She didn't let that get her down. She was just like, yeah, they don't get it, they don't understand.
Next gig.
Yeah, let's keep going.
Wow.
And
it's hard. I know, because I've worked
hard.
with
It's
many
like
artists.
dealing with rejection.
When
It's
people
like
don't show up, when there's coldness in the audience, it's really hard, especially when you're working hard to make it through, and you're hoping that in the audience there's that some person that will make a difference with your airplay or record sales or whatever.
Yes, it requires a self-belief, and then really having a thick skin in a way. I mean, I know actors and musicians, we all deal with this sense of rejection. We have this, and then it's like, you have this self-image is like, I believe in myself. I want to do this. I want to be successful. But then you play for people who don't respond to you, and then you're like, oh God, do I suck? What's going on here?
Yeah,
and then you
it's
go, no,
hard.
I don't. So you still have to believe in you, and just give it your all, and just keep going.
Keep going. Thanks for sharing that, because again, it tells a lot about Madonna.
Right.
In the
She was
beginning,
able
as
to
as
keep
she
going.
still is.
Exactly, and she's still going.
And another example is that while she was doing these club dates and her album was just out, in a couple of months, she was already thinking, I want to do another album. And she started writing songs. And you were invited to do these home sessions with Steve Bray at her place and started writing songs. And I think those include Angel, Over and Over.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah. He wrote. She wrote Angel with Steven, and there's Over and Over, and yeah,
You
all
played
these
on
great
the
songs.
demos.
I had played on some of the demos, yes, and then I ended up doing I ended up when that album came out, the Virgin tour. I ended up playing guitar on that tour.
On that tour, because you didn't play guitar on that album because Nile Rodgers produced it. He didn't need any other guitar player. Obviously, he's top of the top. But she called you right away when she had to audition for her band. And the whole band was essentially put together in LA with Patrick Leonard, but you were the only New Yorker.
We did a bunch of auditions in New York, and she was just like, I don't know. But her manager at the time was Freddie DeMann. And he also managed Michael Jackson. And so he had the brilliant idea and suggestion, well, why don't we get a turnkey band? Patrick and the guys just got off tour with on the Victory Tour with the Jacksons, the Jackson 5. And why don't you have them, work up some songs and come to LA? And so she did. She went to LA and with Jonathan Moffat on drums, a band that Patrick Leonard had put together, and they were tight.
Nice.
They were good. They were just so professional. And she said, "This is my band. This is great. Yes, you guys are it. Except I don't need you." And she's pointing at the guitar player, who is a guy. I believe it was Bruce Geitch,
who wrote Isla Bonita eventually.
Right. I had no idea. I had displaced Pat's best friend, Bruce, who's an excellent musician.
And she put you right in the front during the show.
Yeah, she did. I got right there. James Herrick became the other guitar player, and he and I were almost like bookends. Similar height, and also excellent musician. You know, I love James Harris playing. Just a beautiful player and good guy, good friend. And so
He
we
recently did a song with Donna Laurie. They
really?
reunited and did a
Very
song
cool.
like last year. But you were kind of the star because you got the dress you up guitar solo. And that performance not only opened the show, but became the video to the song that was released when the tour was over. And it became a huge international sensation because that was the time that Madonna broke through internationally in Europe, in Australia, everywhere. And that video was everywhere. And everybody remembers the Virgin Tour for that song.
Yes, yeah, I'm eternally grateful for that opportunity and for having been part of that. The Nile solo on the record is cool, but it could go so much. They could really capitulate a little bit more. And so I took his beginning, which is basically the vocal melody, and what you're hearing there is what I played that night. I played something different every night, and it's like walking the tightrope sometimes. If you don't have everything planned out, which I actually do that on purpose. I'll plan okay, how am I going to start this solo, and how am I going to end it,
so that she picks up in the chorus.
Right, but then the middle part is like whatever I'm feeling that night. It's going to go. It'll just go there, and there's always the danger that you could fall on your face or play, or go and
which is the element that Madonna doesn't like. That's why she likes things to be always super rehearsed.
She likes to be very ultra planned out. And
was she already like that with her first tour?
Well, yes. Everything was choreographed, and we had things really laid out. But for the solo, I had the beginning and the ending, and then I just let it kind of happen every night a little bit different, which is cool because I think that's a great way for improvisation to really kind of let it happen, because every night or every day you feel a little bit different.
There's another song in that show that the fans really love and Madonna doesn't. I mean, for a long time she has neglected that song, but finally recently she put it out on streaming, and that is The Gambler.
That's funny. I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to talk about The Gambler.
Peak in that show, wasn't it? And
it's a great song.
That guitar.
Yes, it was. It's. I was very proud of that song and how it really came together. It's definitely a rocker, and I think it's a great one.
It showcases her talent as a songwriter. One of the last few ones she wrote by herself, and brings it back to her roots, and it has that groove that is really, really special. And we all wish she will do it again sometime, but
you never know. She probably may resurrect it and play it again. She's been playing a lot of guitar,
right? Exactly. So the tour ended on a very happy note because Madonna became an international star. She got a #1 hit. She kicked out the "We Are the World" song from #1 in the charts with "Crazy for You." She had Into the Groove, and in the summer, the last gig was Live Aid.
Right, which I was just going to say, which was incredible. It was such a high point. 90,000 people in the audience. It was so hot.
How did it feel performing? What was your feeling? The biggest were there.
Yeah, oh man, some of the other artists and who I ended up working with, Hall & Oates were there. I remember standing on the side of the stage watching Hall & Oates set, the Thompson Twins, and they had Niall playing guitar.
Right, as a guest.
And I was getting to hang with some of my heroes, but as a fellow player. So it had the feeling of having arrived. This is my dream.
Do you remember Madonna's feeling before the performance, after the performance? How was it?
You don't have to think about it, but she was always very, very confident. I never saw her be nervous or have any doubt in her mind, other than she would have everything, her choreography, she had that planned out. So then she had a certain confidence that was that was infectious, for us all. We felt it, and we had a good time. Billy Myers played on Holiday. The other keyboard player who's wearing the blue color, played a brilliant piano solo in Holiday, and we did like the little breaks. And
You worked again with Madonna on Oh Father and many other songs.
Yeah.
But this is crazy that you're saying how confident she was, because just 3 minutes ago you were telling me how confident she was performing in front of a cold audience on the rooftop
Right.
of Danceteria. So from that in summer 83 to Live Aid in summer 1985, and her concentration on the matter was the same.
The same. Yeah, it was. That's an amazing story.
I literally have goosebumps today. It's the second time.
Wow, that's cool.
So, incredible thing. Madonna became a star. You became famous as well. One of the most in-demand guitar players. You performed at Live Aid. You were in the Dress You Up video. You had so many working experiences. For a short time, you parted ways with Madonna. You didn't cross paths again, but you met again because you were working frequently with Shep Pettibone, and when she started working with him, they called you for the sessions for the
let's use
Erotica
Pesco,
album.
let's use Paul, and so it's funny. So, I'm not exactly sure why or how it happened, but I had been working with Shep and playing a lot of his records, and she was co-producing something with Shep.
Nick Scotti.
That's right. That's right. Yes. Wow, man. Yes, I'd love to hear that record again. Yeah. So, so she actually she auditioned me again. She goes, "So, play this. Okay, now double it. Now solo those. Let me hear it." And she could hear that my time was good. I could double exactly. So she's like, "Wow, Paul, he sounds good." Yeah. So she gained confidence in me again somehow, I guess. But I guess the reason I wasn't there in those days after the Virgin tour is that she was really based in L.A. and I was still based in New York.
Yeah, that makes a difference.
And it was easier. I mean, there was all these great guitarists
and
in
you got
LA.
so many gigs.
I was working. I was constantly working, and the system started like taking off. So from that point, I was working. And post Virgin tour, I went right into recording with Steve Winwood. I played on the Back in the High Life album, and Chris Lord-Alge, who's the famous recording and mix engineer.
He remixed Cherish and La Isla Bonita, besides mixing many great albums of the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, Chris is just, also to this day, one of my best friends. He was working with Steve Winwood and said, "Let's get Pesco for the song." And it was the song Finer Things. And oddly enough, with the band I'm in now with Omar Hakim, we're doing kind of this set of cover songs of songs that we are associated with, and that we played guitar on. So I just brought up the idea of like, why don't we play Finer Things? It's such a good song. And so after post Virgin tour, I was out with working with Steve Winwood, and I did the Back in the High Life tour, which he won Grammy Grammy in 1986 for the best album of the year. Was and he had
Crazy.
The song Higher Love was on there.
Yeah.
Back in the High Life, Finer Things, which
fire.
which Whitney Houston covered.
Yeah. So you reunited, and after Get Over with Nick Scotti, that was done around the end of 1990, 1991.
Right. She had me play on Deeper and Deeper.
How were those sessions for the Erotica album?
It was very interesting. It was fun. She let me just kind of play, and Deeper and Deeper. There was some rock stuff. There's what's it called? There's a song called Bad Girl.
Yes, Bad Girl, the beautiful ballad that everybody loves. There's a demo floating around with your guitar on it that wasn't used in the album.
It was not used, and I was like, I really kind of was proud of that of that session. And yeah, it unfortunately didn't get used, but the demo was out there, and people.
But what got used was the flamenco guitar solo in the breakdown of Deeper and Deeper. Now, famously, there was a battle between Madonna and Shep Pettibone because he had played house piano in that section, and she wasn't convinced, and she kept asking him to bring up something else up, and then she said, let's put a flamenco guitar on it, and they called you, and he thought it had nothing to do with the song, but instead it lifted it up.
Right, it became part of it. That's very cool. I mean, it's funny how I'm in there to really flesh out the vision of the producer. So I really I take anything that's asked of me by a producer, even though if it may seem ridiculous at the moment or just something out of context or just odd, like
You
something
take the challenge.
I take it as a challenge to try to make it happen and figure out a way to play it. It's
That's very interesting because you're the second guitar player telling me exactly the same thing. On an earlier episode of this season of my podcast, I interviewed Tommy Marin, who was in the Bedtime Stories recording sessions. He's the man who played guitar on Secret, which was famously Madonna's first guitar-led song. And he was playing the acoustic, and then she said, I want a wah-wah electric guitar solo in the middle of the song. And he was reaching out to pick up his electric guitar, and she was like, no, just plug in the acoustic one. And he thought she was crazy, going like, it doesn't work like this.
Right, exactly.
But he said, if she's asking me to, who am I to say no? Let me take it as a challenge. And it sounded amazingly well.
And it wasn't something that he would have done, you know?
Exactly. That's what he said.
It was out of the ordinary. Yeah, and so I really, I'll try an idea. If somebody has an idea, I'll try it before nixing it.
Right, and she appreciated that. He also played guitar on the song "Why Is It So Hard," that reggae song.
Yes, that's which ended up being this really kind of this high point on the Girlie show tour.
My favorite tour. Tell us about it.
That was just an amazing thing. I remember once I had played on the Erotica album, she then invited me to be the guitarist for that tour, and that was just such a great joy and a great challenge and such a good band. My God, you listen to the arrangements.
Her best band.
One of the, and it's live. You know, you're hearing live music being played in the moment. You know, Omar Hakim, Victor Bailey on bass, Michael Bearden, Jay Winding, Luis Conte. Yeah, just these great musicians.
And Nikki and Donna.
Of course, Nikki and Donna.
What a great band. What do you remember about the rehearsals? Not in terms of production, but band rehearsals. How was she putting together the sound of the show?
Well, this is something that she would actually, it was very democratic. She would have, like Jay was the musical director, you know, he had the moniker musical director, but really he was there kind of keeping things together. But Madonna would ask the band and say, well, what do you think? And we would all kind of throw out suggestions, and she'd consider them all. And we'd go through it, we'd try things, and the best suggestion would win. And that's the way we built all of the arrangements on that tour.
As a band.
And it was really cool. I really enjoyed that, and it was truly democratic, how all the arrangements came together.
The way you guys turned Erotica from the amazing album version into the fantabulous live version was incredible.
Thank you.
I remember being at the Paris show. I was 19, and it felt like for a moment during that song, I felt like I'm in a club. I'm not in an arena. I'm listening to a club gig that was beautiful. This band feeling of all these sounds coming from all of you guys was really intense. Now, you mentioned Was It So Hard as one of the highlights of the show, which indeed it was. And you got to walk out on the catwalk.
I got to walk out on the catwalk with her,
and,
yes.
And you also did in La Isla Bonita, because Crazily had this long, beautiful hair that was similar to the guy from the La Isla Bonita video.
Right. It's interesting. It's funny. I had really long hair at that point, and she made everybody on the tour cut their hair. The dancers all had like zip, like this. And I was like, do you want me to shave my hair? She goes, no. You keep your hair long. And it was specifically, she wanted that. She liked that look. And then, of course, for the Isla Bonita portion, the guitar solo.
That was another highlight of the show.
Definitely. It was, I'm so glad that it came out the way it did. And the guitar sound is really, really, I love the way it was mixed. and really recorded well, and it showcases my guitar playing in a nice way. I'm really
Absolutely. That
very proud of
salsa
that
version
moment.
was really intense, intense. Did you have fun on the road?
I did, yes. The whole band, we were just a great, happy family. It's so exciting playing in all these great venues, huge. We had our own airplane. Omar and I sat next to each other, and there was Madonna and her entourage up in first class, and then the band and management were in the business class section of this MGM 737, I think it was, and then everybody else was back in coach.
To recap, I would like to ask you from your privileged point of view, having met Madonna the day her career started, essentially, to touring the world from Turkey to Australia and seeing her perform in front of the biggest audiences of the world and Live Aid. What is your opinion of Madonna as a songwriter and as a producer and as a show performer? Her mindset, my investigation is about her method.
I do believe that she has a very definite idea of what she wants. She has, having come up as a dancer before, gave her the sensibility of the beat, of rhythm, and even those early days with Breakfast Club playing drums. I believe that many of my favorite musicians started off on drums. Do you know who Jaco Pastorius was, right? The brilliant bass player who played with, who Victor Bailey replaced in Weather Report, was a drummer first. Tommy Emmanuel, who's the brilliant acoustic guitar player who plays everywhere, who's an amazing talent, drummer first. So if you have a foundation in drums or dance, it gives you this sensibility. And I believe that is a major part of her foundation, was her sense of rhythm, and being a dancer gave her the sense of what the sound that she was looking for. And a lot of DJs have this similar approach, and she had that early on. It really affected her sensibility of the beat and the foundation. And listen to the music that Stephen Bray creates. He, as a drummer, has this great that rhythmic sensibility or rhythmic clarity, is expressed in all the other instruments, and how then he produces and how she will produce and have, the musicians play, and in her choices of what performance are we gonna choose, or how is what is the foundation of a given piece of music. I really believe that has plays a key role in her productions and sensibility as an artist.
Thank you very much. This was a wonderful conversation. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Julio.
I'm very happy to have known you, because not only with Madonna, you've worked with Joan Baez, with Annie Lennox.
Yeah, I toured with Joan Baez for 9 years, and it's funny because she would joke about it, on stage, Paul he's here with us now, but next year he'll be out with the other, iconic star Madonna. I've toured with Herb Alpert, and he'll mention stuff like that.
Wow.
And I've just been so fortunate, and I just want to say thank you. And I look forward to all these new things that I was telling you before, that Omar Hakim and I have a project called Sonic Boom Squad. Our friendship really gelled, our association really gelled on the Girlie show tour. So look out for that. There's a bunch of videos on YouTube.
I will look them up. Yes, and you do too, guys. Check it out.
Check it out.
Thanks, Paul, for being with us. Thank you so much. And
thank you, Julio. Anytime, man. I really appreciate this. I look forward to the book and anything else. I wish you the greatest of success.
Grazie mille. Well, I have nothing else to add. Paul is such a great storyteller, and I loved his perspective. Just 2 quick things. Please leave your comments. I really like to interact with the viewers, and I swear I answer all messages. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so you get notified when new episodes come out. Okay, time to say ciao now. Until the next one, let's keep in touch. Let's keep talking of Madonna's music. Now go and listen to that fab guitar on Lucky Star, play the extended version and let the music take control.